The markets are a reflection of life, and life works with the winner takes most. And MicroStrategy is one of those very few winners. Most stocks underperform the index. And the reason to buy an index ETF is to simply participate in those few winners. But if you are just to randomly pick a stock, if you take the Nasdaq 100 and you pick 5 to 10 stocks randomly in that index, chances are very, very high that you're not going to do as well as buying the index fund. And again, that's because the winner takes most. Most profits accrue to a few outsized winners. And so the way Michael Saylor, CEO of MicroStrategy, has been able to outperform is by putting all of those Bitcoin on the balance sheet. What we see over here is the MicroStrategy stock divided by the Nasdaq 100. So this is a relative valuation chart. And what we can see here in the vertical line, this is when MicroStrategy purchased their first Bitcoin. And since that purchase, MicroStrategy outperformed the rest of the stock market by 217%. Now let's scroll back a little bit and see the performance beforehand. MicroStrategy wasn't necessarily an outperformer. From June of 1998 to the day where Michael Saylor decided to buy Bitcoin, MicroStrategy underperformed by 86% roughly. And again, this is very common. Most stocks look like this. Only a very few outperformance don't, like Apple, like Microsoft, like Google, like Amazon, but the rest tends to do not that well. Now, instead of looking at relative valuation to the Nasdaq, let's look at relative valuation to Bitcoin. Since the first purchase, MicroStrategy outperformed. Not by much, but still an outperformance, 22%, and there are massive spikes in both directions, which are potential trading opportunities, right? This is a relatively narrow trading range. What I find fascinating is the following. Look at this. On January 10th, we got the Bitcoin ETF approvals, and MicroStrategy stock since then outperformed. I would have expected an underperformance because MicroStrategy stock now works as a proxy to buying Bitcoin, and maybe you don't want to get that exposure to the company. You simply just want Bitcoin exposure, and you might move some capital from MicroStrategy to the ETFs. But that seems to not have happened. It appears that the brand of Michael Saylor and the additional leverage that Michael Saylor is taking on is paying off. Here are the videos that work on YouTube. XRP will be $12,000 guaranteed, or an AI explosion, top 3 cryptos to buy in November. A lot of pushing of greed, that's what gets the clicks. What doesn't get the click is a tutorial on how to make backtests, on how to build those sheets that in the end figure out what historically worked well in the past. The backtest that I often show here on this channel. I still very much enjoy producing this kind of content though. I also share these kinds of sheets, but I don't do it on YouTube. It's rather a small circle. We are less than 100 people that signed up for premium. You also get direct access to me. Feel free to check it out. It's thebitcoinstrategy.com. Now, I personally don't buy any Bitcoin ETF, and I also don't buy any MicroStrategy stock. But I do believe that there is a potential trading opportunity similar to the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. So just because something is in the traditional markets doesn't have to mean that it's a bad opportunity. And again, I think the best way to make money from this is to ride the waves, is to have a very close eye on that trading range. There were massive spikes in the past, but if we ignore those spikes, then we tend to be trading relatively narrow. And this would tell us that maybe it is time after an additional outperformance of 8 to 10% to move away from MicroStrategy stock again and instead purchase Bitcoin. There's no guarantee that this stays in that trading range, but I'm not sure how much outperformance MicroStrategy can really make long term. If you're deciding between Bitcoin and MicroStrategy stock, you can make that play. If you simply just get into stocks and you get individual exposure to stocks and you don't even own any Bitcoin, then MicroStrategy stock might make a lot of sense. It's a pretty nice, straightforward way to get exposure to the best cryptocurrency I believe there is. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. There's also a free Telegram. Link is down below.